More than 400 students who did not qualify for National Student Financial Aid Scheme funding will repay the money. This follows SIU's long investigation into allocation of student funding across institutions of higher learning. Joining us is Kaizer Kganyago, SIU spokesperson. Dr. Kganyago, appreciate your time this evening. Just speak to us about the value. What is the amount that's going to be paid back by these 400 or so students?
Thank you very much and good evening to your viewers. We are talking about 421 students who have signed the AODs or acknowledgements of debt, and that really amounts to just over 112 million rand in cash that they need to pay to us over a period that we would have arranged with them.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the amount that these 420 odd students are expected to pay back?
Yes, the amount that they are supposed to pay back is 112 million rand.
Now, just how did these undeserving students receive this money?
What really happened is that you know that NSFAS is meant for the needy students who are unable to pay. Therefore, there are some of the students at the time we had gotten the number of about just over 40,000 of them who would just come with documentation that not from the parents. For example, they will use the grandparents' ID numbers and so on to say that they are needy, even though they are coming from families where the parents would be able to pay. Therefore, these are some of the examples where they were not reaching the threshold that they were supposed to reach in terms of the amount that is put aside for payments. To say a family must have this amount collective salary before they can qualify.
So is this activity deemed fraudulent?
Yes, it is fraudulent when it is intentional, but in some instances, that's why at the time we had indicated that we are not just going to have one size fits all. We are going to go to each one of the 40,000 plus students and understand their circumstances. Because in some instances, you find that the parents are well-to-do, but they are not looking after the children, and then we are able to get that. But those where it was just a fraudulent exercise, we go to them and show them that it was a fraudulent exercise, and then they, together with the parents, sign the acknowledgement of debt in order to pay. And therefore, we will then look at the matters that we'll have to take to the national prosecuting authorities to say this was just deliberate stealing that was done. Because in some of the instances, you find that the people who work for NSFAS themselves have been putting money to their own bank accounts, or in some instances to their children who they know do not qualify.
So I suppose now is a good time to elaborate on the control weaknesses within NSFAS that led to overpayments and underpayments to various institutions. Are these conversations that you've had with NSFAS?
Yes, the conversations we have had, because the one part is the one I was talking about, but the other part is where they would have sent money to the institutions themselves for certain students, and they don't reconcile at the end of the financial year. Therefore, when the students maybe have dropped out, or some of the students have not even gone to the specific universities, the universities would then keep this money. And that is why the recent one that we have put in our statement is that Fort Hare has just paid us about 277 million of the money that they had just kept there and did not use it for what it was intended for. The total number of amount of money that we have recovered from the institutions is now just over 1 billion, 1.1 billion. And what we have then done at the end of each investigation, in this particular instance with the NSFAS, or even during the investigation, we then draw systemic recommendations. And some of the recommendations we have made to NSFAS is that, one, you must reconcile, which they have taken, and now they've got a company that is now doing the closeout report. And then the second thing that we said to them is that their computer system for approval must be linked to Home Affairs and also to SARS, so that when they punch the ID number of the student, they will be able to see from Home Affairs who the parents are, and then when they punch on SARS, they will know how much these parents are owing. That way, they will be in a position to not approve on the basis of what is given only.
Dr. Kganyago, let's look a little bit at the Fort Hare case that you've talked about. You said 277 million rand was paid back by Fort Hare, and I think you said this was money that was not used for the purpose that was intended to be used for. So firstly, how long did they have this money for? And what was the intended purpose? And why did they not use it for that purpose?
Yes, the system that NSFAS was using was to then look at the number of students that might be in that institution and then send the money to the institution so that it can be allocated to those students. But they were not mindful of the fact that some of the students were admitted in 2 or 3 universities and they choose a different university. Therefore, that money cannot be used for what it was intended for, which is for the fees for this particular student. In some instances, a student arrives and then in the first 2 months or so, that student then drops out and therefore that money is not given. Therefore, at the end, the money is not used for what it was intended for, which is to fund the studies of these students. Therefore, the university was supposed to send back that money to NSFAS so that it can be used for other students who might be in need, because some of the students are now rejected because there is not enough money to accommodate everybody. But the money is sitting at the institutions. Therefore, we went to this institution and showed them that, and they gave us, the highest I think was paid by the University of Pretoria, which is about 400 million. And we are still going to the others. We're looking at other bigger institutions so that they can pay back the money.
So how long did Fort Hare and University of Pretoria in particular hold this money for?
In some instances, it has been for years. They would just roll it in the year, and then sometimes...
I mean, give me a number, Ntate Kganyago. I mean, we're talking
I don't have a specific number for Fort Hare sitting here. Yeah, in some instances, there would be 5 years. There are examples where there have been 5 years, but I don't have a specific one for Fort Hare, how long they had kept that. But we worked it around and checked it with them against what was paid. Therefore, it then gave us a figure of 277 for now, but we're still looking into some of the other students, it might be more.
Now, if a university such as UP is sitting on 400 million Rand, I mean, that's a vast sum. The interest on that could have been earned is a substantial amount. Are there interest charges to these amounts that they're paying back? Are there any other penalties?
Definitely there are interest charges, but obviously the issue of how they have to be dealt with, because the investigation is still going on, we are looking into all of those variables so that we are able to see how we are going to deal with this going forward. Because they are saying to us, but NSFAS never came and asked for the money. But for now going forward, because they've got the closeout report that they do every year, they will make sure that at the end of each and every financial year, the money will be taken back to NSFAS so that it can fund the next generation in the following year.
Now, in terms of recovering some of these unallocated funds, what sort of challenges have you faced, and what are the sort of numbers that you expect to collect? I mean, if you've collected 677 million from 2 institutions, one can only imagine just this has got to run into the billions.
Yes, for now, in all the institutions that have paid, we are over 1.1 billion. And then we have got these students that we have got to follow up. Obviously, all of these people do not want to be found. Therefore, because they do not want to be found, it becomes a big project. Just imagine our investigators have to go and interview more than 40,000 students and their parents so that they are able to show them and recover the money. And we still have bigger institutions like UNISA, we've got bigger institutions like VETS that we still are dealing with. Therefore, we have to get as much as possible. For only the students alone, the figure of those that were funded that we were not supposed to have been funded at the time was just over 5 billion Rand.
Kaizer Kganyago is the SIU spokesperson speaking to us about collecting money on behalf of NSFAS. Appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to us this evening.